And a very good morning for this now Tuesday morning of June 2nd, 2015. Your host right here, the Black Avenger, a.k.a. the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders of the RCWR Show, coming at you with a review for the Stone Cold Steve Austin special that came about just a couple of minutes ago, as his special guest was the one and only Paul Heyman. Now, for those of you that might be looking for the actual episode itself, you guys should know by now that this was an exclusive to the WWE Network. The only way you can check it out right now, and if you haven't signed up for the WWE Network, and to your knowledge, it is available for you to sign up and get wherever you may live, then you need to sign up. Now, if you're in North America, you can actually sign up for the network for the entire month of June. You can get it for free. How badass is that? Yes, once again, WWE has rolled out that month promotion that they have been doing for the past couple of months. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our longtime subscribers and followers. We have made this announcement on our Elimination Chamber post show. We have now disabled the viewing of the thumbs up, thumbs down, as we had said on our post show last night, which, by the way, we appreciate a lot of you guys that had checked it out. Great time. Look forward to the next one. I know there were some of you that were very disappointed we did not open up the phone lines. We tried, came across a few problems, but we are working to make sure that it doesn't happen again the next go round. But we've disabled it because we had, unfortunately, a case of, I don't know if it's one person, it probably is based on the back end analytics I've seen of YouTube, but we have a spammer that will just for every single like that they see on our video, they will try to match it with dislikes. So think about that. That person is basically creating multiple accounts, and they're just doing that. So now we're going to do something rather fun every single week on our respective podcasts. We're going to let you guys know how each one of our webcasts did. We'll let you know the total views. We'll let you know the numbers, because I know there's a lot of you guys that's out there. You're like, hey, this episode's pretty good. What's going on with the numbers? What's up with the likes? What's up with the dislikes? So those that do want to give a dislike, I definitely respect those that go out of their way to leave me constructive criticism, let me know why they gave it a dislike. I have nothing but great respect for people that do that. But, unfortunately, that's just how YouTube is. You got some people that, unfortunately, just want to abuse the system and all that. It is what it is. But, hey, we bored you with all that crap long enough. You're here about the Stone Cold podcast with Paul Heyman, which, by the way, it looks like, I'm assuming the audio version of that, I would hope, is going to be released on Podcast One, who Steve Austin is affiliated with. I'm not really sure, but, very refreshing to have Stone Cold Steve Austin back with the WWE Network doing his live show special. Missed him tremendously. I know there was a lot of people that was hating on Chris Jericho. I know. Look, we'll get into Chris Jericho another time. My phone keeps going off, and I got to make sure I'm concentrating for you guys here. So let me just turn this off. Excuse me a second. And let's turn this off. All right, let's get right into it. Very refreshing that Stone Cold Steve Austin came back into the fold with the WWE Network, contrary to the reports that were floating around as far as his relationship with the WWE. And a lot of things that you were able to take away from this great conversation that he had with Paul Heyman. I like the way that it pretty much had opened up surrounding Steve Austin and Paul Heyman basically coming together. In particular, you had Heyman, who had from afar been looking at stunning Steve Austin, admired his in-ring work, and felt that way back when that he was a star on the rise, and that he wanted to somehow align himself with stunning Steve. And you all know about the dangerous alliance, you veteran wrestling fans. Well, Paul Heyman had went to Dusty Rhodes, and he was doing really great Dusty Rhodes impersonations off and on. That was just something. And I got my own Dusty Rhodes impression, but I bow down to Paul Heyman. He does it best. And he was running the whole idea of Steve joining the Dangerous Alliance, and Dusty Rhodes was like, "Yeah, he's got the talent. He's definitely got the moves, but are you really sure this could be a good move? I don't really know." And Heyman basically sold the fact of, "Hey, look, Steve is from Texas, just like you, Dusty, and look at how your career had went. I mean, you soared to heights. Steve, kind of following in the same footsteps, man. Trust me, this would be a smart move." So Dusty Rhodes loved the idea, and pretty much the rest was history. Steve, and this was one of about maybe 4, 5 times that one Rick Rude was brought up. And I just thought it was kind of interesting that Rick Rude's name was brought up, because I'm kind of saying to myself, is Steve Austin maybe trying to use the opportunity to maybe get the powers that be in WWE to strongly consider finally, because I know there's been a lot of wrestling fans that have been waiting patiently for it, finally to put Ravishing Rick Rude in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think this definitely opened up some type of dialogue to get the brains in motion. I think I'm on to something right here. Let me know if you guys agree, if you were picking up that same vibe as well. And depending on the number of comments we have, I'll follow up on what you all have to say. I'm not expecting that many comments, because as it stands right now, it's like 12:30 in the morning. I just wanted to come on here, talk about it real quick. Side note, in case you guys didn't get the memo on our post show and you're not following us throughout social media, I did announce way earlier today that we were not going to be covering Raw Fallout due to the airing of the Stone Cold podcast. I just was not interested in doing two shows like that. It's like pick the one that's going to have most people talking. So I'm deciding to go in this direction. Those of you that want to know what I think about Raw tonight, you definitely need to tune in to the podcast. I have a lot to say. I'll give you a little bit of a preview later on in the show, but you definitely need to check out the podcast. Getting back to the Stone Cold podcast with Paul Heyman, of course, Brock Lesnar was brought up. Steve Austin asked him what exactly is going on with Lesnar. Where is he these days? When is he coming back? And Paul Heyman was very honest. He said, well, storyline wise, eventually he's going to come back and everything. But the way it's looking right now, he's going to come back sooner rather than later, which is going to be pretty good for everybody. And then Steve Austin answered or asked the question that has been on the minds of a lot of wrestling fans. And I love the fact that Steve Austin said in the IWC. I love that. Rather than just say wrestling community, he pretty much said IWC. Nothing wrong with that, especially when it's not used as a put down or anything like that, right? Just casually just referring to the wrestling fans for what they are. And he brought up the fact that Brock Lesnar, what's going on with the way that he has his deal structured and he's working these limited dates. A lot of people feel that, he's so great at what he's doing for the WWE product right now that he should be doing more dates. Basically, what's the bottom line on that? And Paul Heyman said, Brock loves wrestling. He loves being back with the WWE. He's now at a point in his life right now where he can finally kick back and enjoy the fruits of labor, which is something that he really wasn't able to do before. And they were talking about how close he was to going back to the UFC if his new deal with the WWE did not fall through. So what we learned in like the first 10 minutes of this is Brock Lesnar, he had strong intentions on staying with the WWE. It just basically came down to the money. But from what I was able to gather, at least the way Paul Heyman made it seem, Brock always wanted to stay with the WWE. He didn't want to leave. However, he was preparing to go back into the MMA because at the end of the day, Brock has to provide financially for his family, for his kids. And he actually had built a mini training camp. And he was beginning to train. And if the deal did not fall through with the WWE, then he was going to invest in a full-blown training camp. And it wasn't a situation of, well, who was his opponent going to be? But rather, he wanted to get into the best shape possible. And whatever first opponent was going to be thrown his way, he was going to go in there and he was going to deliver. Not necessarily get the W, but physically, training-wise, he was going to be ready to go. And I love the fact that Paul Heyman had brought up the fact that with regards to Brock Lesnar, Brock, as much as he's enjoying wrestling again, in particular being back with the WWE, at the end of the day, he's a family man. He loves to be at home with his wife. He loves to be at home with his children. His children are the world. And he tries to be the best dad to them as much as he possibly can. So he's basically at that point right now where family is more of a priority than the wrestling business. And I mean, you can't fault the man for that, especially considering that he's in his what, mid to almost late 30s. If he's not in his late 30s by now, he should definitely be at least in his mid 30s. You know, you can respect that. Although Steve Austin did bring up the fact that, yeah, a lot of people can understand that, but still, you have those that, you know, they want to see more of him. And Heyman brought up the fact that, look, when it comes to Brock Lesnar, look at the way that this guy has been used. It's like a holiday, and he used the analogy of Christmas Eve. I'm surprised he didn't go with Christmas Day. I don't know, the way I was raised, Christmas Day is more. But then I will admit, as I get a little bit older, I find that Christmas Eve is kind of starting to become more and more popular. It's actually a little bit more forward to check out, to look more forward to than Christmas Day. I don't know how it is for you guys in your respective household, but like for me and some of my friends, Christmas Eve is awesome because you get to open one gift, a little bit of a teaser. You have some wine, you have some crackers, some cheese, you listen to some holiday music, jazz, whatever your cup of tea is, and then it sets up the festivities for the next day or whatever. But he basically said Brock Lesnar is like Christmas Eve. If you were to just spam the hell out of him for X amount of shows, for X amount of months, that whole, oh man, it's Brock Lesnar, that whole special moment is going to go away. And this is exactly what I have been talking about with regards to the Big Show. I talked about this on our Elimination Chamber post show last night. The same way that they're applying things to Brock Lesnar, I wish they would do that to guys like Big Show. I definitely wish they would do that to guys like Kane, because you just see some guys that really should not be operating on a full-time schedule right now when you have these young and hungry upcoming guys that's looking for those opportunities to prove their value to the WWE. They're being sidelined by certain veteran spots. All right. So I thought it was good the way Paul Heyman had, brought all that up, defending the reason why Brock Lesnar has these limited dates, so to speak. And also the question was brought up about, well, that explains Paul Heyman, but as far or correction, let me back up a second. Sorry about that. That explains what's up with Brock Lesnar, but with regards to Paul Heyman, what's going on with Heyman being the advocate, being the client for other people, because people are just so into what he's doing on TV. Can they get more of him? And at that, Heyman pretty much said that what you see of him happening with Brock Lesnar, I mean, this is well documented. If you have the ladies and gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman DVD, a fantastic DVD, mind you. Some of the stuff that was brought up during the Stone Cold special, a lot of it is talked about in great detail on that DVD. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend that you do. The documentary piece alone is fantastic. But Heyman brought up the fact that what you see with him and Lesnar, they genuinely are the best of friends. They're business partners. They work very well with each other. What you see with those two guys is literally their friendship out there that's on the line that you're seeing. That's why the chemistry is there. CM Punk, pretty much the same deal. I love the fact that CM Punk was brought up inadvertently as Steve Austin took that little bit of an opportunity to ask Paul Heyman. I thought he was going to go in the direction of what did Heyman make of everything that came about with WWE CM Punk. But instead, Steve Austin decided to go into the direction of Punk going in the UFC. What's his take on this? Does he think Punk will be successful? And Heyman commended Punk. He said, honestly, Punk has been wanting to do this for years, apparently. The timing just never came about right. Uh, and that Punk is in a position right now where he's doing what he's doing not for money. This is just something that he's just been wanting to do for so many years. And it's kind of like, I think we all can relate. There's something that you've always wanted to do, you've never done it. Maybe you have fear, trepidations, or you keep saying, I'll get to it eventually, and then it never happens. And then you kind of have that part of your life where you have your regrets, right? And for CM Punk, it's kind of like that type of a situation. But Heyman pretty much said, make no mistake about it, win, lose, or draw, Punk's going to go out there. He's definitely going to give it all that he has. From there, I thought it was very interesting as soon the topic went into finishers. And Stone Cold was mentioning the fact that he was watching a little bit of Raw tonight, of which, and I love the fact that he did this because this is actually something that we're going to be talking about in great length on the podcast. He endorsed the promo that John Cena had gave during Raw. And those of you that had watched it, you know exactly what the deal was. Those of you that did not watch Raw, hopefully it's on the WWE Fan Nation channel here on YouTube, or maybe you DVR'd it, or hey, it comes on like 3 times over the weekend, but you need to check it out. That was like one of the best promos I have seen this calendar year from John Cena. And it just had some people look at it in a different light and use it as an opportunity to bash the WWE, to bash John Cena. And anybody that has been a fan of our shows here knows that when it comes to John Cena, I'm not exactly the type of guy that will go, all right, John Cena, yay, or hey, I had an opportunity to go see John Cena and talk to him for 20 minutes. I probably would actually take advantage of that. But like, basically in a nutshell, everybody knows I'm not a mark for John Cena. I have been uh, a big critic when it comes to John Cena, but at the same time, I give the devil his due. And it was interesting the interactions that I had with regards to that promo, because I endorsed it. I said that was a damn good promo. Other people thought it was just ultimate WWE capitalism at its finest because a sick kid was brought up or whatever. And it's moments like what you saw of John Cena's promo tonight. And I put this tweet out there. It's segments like that that makes you realize or remind you why you fell in love with wrestling in the first place. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, for me personally, growing up on wrestling, what always was the hook for me as a kid, growing up watching wrestling in the 80s, was seeing these bright, colorful characters come on this little small box, and they're just able to mesmerize me with their words to the point that I have to stick around for however long this show, these characters are going to be on this tiny little box, because I want to see what's going to happen with this character that just mesmerized me with his words. And he's talking about what he's going to do to this opponent in the ring and all that. Now I got to stick around. I got to see what he's going to do. And then to top it off, that same guy that I was mesmerized by, he's also able to wrestle his butt off, you know? And this blends. I know some of you guys are like, where's this going, Lee? It ties in perfectly to what Steve Austin was talking about with Paul Heyman, which was the lost art form of moves, of promos. I thought that was really the meat and potatoes, the heart of this special tonight. That was really just, I highly would encourage anybody that didn't see this special tonight to go out of their way, especially if you have access to the network, to check it out, because that was great talk right there. Steve Austin brought up the fact that he was watching a little bit of Raw off and on leading up to the podcast or live event special, and he noticed that there were people just spamming the hell out of the DDT. He didn't name particular people, but you would think that Dean Ambrose is on that list. And I love how he brought up Jake the Snake Roberts. And he said when Jake the Snake Roberts did the DDT, that was it. Nobody got up. Paul Heyman would counter and say, well, think about Harley Race. Harley Race just did a good old-fashioned suplex, and he won his matches that way. And they were just going back and forth talking about, what's the problem? Why is it today that moves like what they were talking about is now just being spammed the hell out of? Nobody's selling it worth a damn. And Paul Heyman basically said, a couple of things come to mind when it comes to those finishers, basically. And I love how he used Mark Henry as a good analogy. He said, imagine if for like 26, 30 weeks, you had Mark Henry win his matches with a headlock. I mean, you look at the size of the guy and all that, he could pull off a headlock and have people tap out and all that. If that's all he does for like 26, 30 weeks, that's going to get people talking. That's going to make people go, damn, this guy just did a headlock. And can't nobody, like, once he applies it, gets out of it. That's it. This match is over. And he was talking about how much of a pop it would be if you had Mark Henry just go to like WrestleMania and he's facing an opponent and he puts that move on them and that person somehow manages to power out. And it's like, that's a moment right there. That's a big moment. And as far as the finishers and all that go, it basically comes down to a combination of things. One, the person that is executing the move, of course, the person that's selling the move, the commentators, everything is just, it all has to work in unison as far as getting that move over or whatever. But I think what Paul Heyman and Steve Austin were talking about, I definitely think that they're onto something. I mean, you see a lot of moves nowadays. I mean, I remember a time, my God, I remember a time when Kane would do the choke slam. And that was it. Match is over. Nowadays, it's like everybody and their mama does a choke slam, and I'm not just talking about the WWE. I mean, you look at any other promotion that's out there, somebody does a choke slam, and it's like they kick out. It's unfortunate. Another thing, and this was a very good observation by Paul Heyman. He talked about how the one thing that he notices, and I definitely have been noticing this. You probably notice it as well when you watch Raw for the 15, 20, sometimes 25-minute promos that kick off the show or whatever. Heaven forbid if it's not the Authority that comes out. I mean, at least you know what they're about if you've been watching the product that long. But like Paul Heyman brought up the fact that you have some wrestlers, they'll come out and there's no engagement to the fans. And I just love the simple analogy that he used as far as his blueprint to success in the engagement with the fans, which is basically who, what, why. Like, who is this guy? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. So boom, he automatically connects with the audience right there. He's directly talking to them. There's that connection instantly. Okay, so we know this guy's name is Paul Heyman. I'm the advocate and client for the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Oh, okay, so he represents. And then he's out there because he's either selling a match or he's selling an upcoming pay-per-view event, what have you. So now you have those W's crossed. And something that I've said off and on the show over the years, especially when it comes to reporting things, because I know a lot of people, and I love you guys tremendously, our listeners, our followers, but it's always cute when I get something on social media. Lee, did you hear about, and it's usually a rumor, it's nothing confirmed yet. And I don't even reply, not to be disrespectful, but I don't reply because that's just what it is. It's a rumor. And when it comes to gathering information, I like to cross off the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, why. Those are some pretty powerful W's right there. You cross all those bad boys off. Any question that person has, it's pretty much answered, you know? So I love the fact that Heyman brought up the point of, for what he's been seeing from a lot of wrestlers, there is no engagement with the fans. And that's so true. And I think a perfect example of that is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, he's been getting the Justin Bieber chance. And look at how many weeks it took him to finally try to counter back. And look at how he countered. I think he countered finally about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, where he basically said, "Oh, well, Justin Bieber, he's got a lot of money. He's good looking. He's successful." And you're like, is that the best you got? You're supposed to be this heel that we just are supposed to hate. We want to see you get your ass kicked. We want to see you lose the championship belt. And you just can't help, good in-ring performer, but you just can't help but feel numb when it comes to his promos. I think Seth Rollins is a good example of not really connecting with the fans. And anybody that wants to challenge me on that, a lot of comparisons are being made between he and Edge. Anybody that is an Edge fan, you just take some of Edge's best promos and you match it up with what Seth Rollins has been doing, and the engagement just is not there. We'd be here all night if I were to go over other people that doesn't have that connection with the audience. Vince McMahon Sr. was brought up. Question was asked if Vince Sr. would have stuck around if ultimately the landscape of the wrestling industry would have gone exactly the way Vince Jr. has taken it. And Paul Heyman, he said, honestly, if Vince Sr. was 5 years younger, he said it's a tough call. He said because he doesn't know. Unfortunately, he didn't get the chance to know Vince Sr. personally. But as far as Vince Jr. saw where the business was going, and he took it there. Of course, back then, for those of you that maybe weren't born around that time period, back then, what was the popular thing for a lot of these wrestlings in their territories and all that is they had syndicated television. And a good example of that is the AWA. And the AWA, they would have their wrestlers come in one day out of the week and they would cut all these promos and all that. And basically they would splice up these clips with new episodes that would basically cater towards that specific city, like especially if the AWA was going to be coming there for in-ring action or whatever, Hey, I'm the Massacre, and I want you to make sure you watch AWA next week, baby, because we're going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio. And in Cincinnati, Ohio, I'm going to take on, I don't know, the Creeper or whatever. You get the gist. But, back then they were distributing their product to certain TV affiliates, basic syndication, before cable, satellite, and all that kicked in. You had guys like Vern Gagne who would eventually get nationally syndicated with ESPN. You had Ole Anderson, Superstation, TBS, Cowboy Bill Watts. You had a lot of people that was looking at what was happening with the business and realized the next evolution that was coming. And as far as Paul was concerned, he strongly believed that if Senior was 5 years younger, that's the route that he definitely would have gone as well. And it was a good segue to Lou Albano. I won't spoil that for you guys, but apparently Lou Albano was fired like every single time you turn around. WWF, WWE or whatever, all the freaking W's. Seemed like there was always a problem with Lou Albano. Basically, it was involving him being wasted and the transition that came about from Vince Sr. to Vince Jr. Lou Albano just was not feeling it, and every time you turn around, he would somehow get fired. And the old man, Vince Sr., would send a couple of people to go find Albano, get him sobered up, get him some coffee, and he'd come back tail tucked in between his legs and all that, and he'd get his jaw back and all that. But I thought this was a really, really great conversation. Of course, the meat and potatoes of tonight, my favorite part towards the end of the show. And again, we're talking about the Stone Cold podcast only. Those of you that maybe are just joining us and you're like, hey, it's Lee. All right, I'm going to hit Raw tonight. I'm not talking Raw. We'll talk Raw on our podcast. All right. I'll give you some little snippets of what we'll talk about on the podcast, but I do hope you'll be able to join us for that. But the one meat and potatoes, the big bang, if you will, the big send off for this Steve Austin special was Heyman asking Steve Austin two very, very noteworthy questions. One, what does he think of John Cena doing the springboard stunner? Steve was very candid, and I'm glad that this subject was brought up. He said that he has a lot of respect for John Cena, put him over as a very hardworking man. But as far as doing that springboard stunner, stuff can happen. If that move is not executed properly, could mess your hip, mess your back, leg, whatever. And then the other thing that he doesn't like is the fact that it's not effective because from what he's been seeing the past several weeks, people have been kicking out of it. As far as he was concerned, at one point, it had the opportunity to be a very devastating move, but now it's just not effective. He just does not see the point in it. Then the other topic that was brought up was, would Steve Austin basically come out of retirement to face Brock Lesnar at next year's WrestleMania? It's going to be in Texas. Steve Austin, it was kind of interesting the way this had went down too, because this one right here, it went like into them playing their characters. And if you guys didn't really catch it, well, now you know, because some of you guys probably were looking at it and was like, damn, did Steve Austin have a bipolar moment? No, they were actually doing a little bit of kayfabing, but at the same time, they were definitely planting some seeds in there to get people talking. As I love how Steve Austin basically said, I would love to come back. I would love to squash that little thing that's been lingering for years now. I'd love to come back and squash that. And he basically said, make no mistake about it. If he were to face Brock Lesnar, if it were to happen, he would kick his ass straight up. And this coming from the same guy that was earlier in the show asking Heyman, well, hell, can you get me and Lesnar together? I know the man loves to hunt. I love to hunt too. We need to go hunting together. And now he's talking about he's going to kick his ass and all that. And Heyman was like, well, maybe we can get something going right there. We all need to talk. And he actually was trying to get Brock on the phone. That would have been awesome if they would have been able to get that together. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Heyman had his phone powered off the whole time. It sure was lighting up, though. Seriously, it was lighting up big time. But Steve Austin, I think he's got a lot of people that are going to be talking now, because it's like, wow. So what we saw of this dialogue between him and Heyman, I think honestly, before this special, I think there has been some type of dialogue that's been going on. And, the one thing that's always been consistent with Steve Austin, he's never ruled out returning to the ring, but nowadays he feels as though he's done. And I mean, look, he's left us with a great body of work. He's definitely had a great transition into acting. He's done some very solid movies. I must say, a majority of Steve Austin's movies I've checked out, I've enjoyed. And I've gone out of my way to check out the movies, as opposed to the WWE films, mostly starring The Miz and all that. I kind of stay away from that. But Steve Austin, you give me a movie with The Rock, aside from Tooth Fairy and all that other stuff. I probably won't watch that type of stuff unless I have kids. But you give me a very good, solid movie from The Rock, Steve Austin, I'll watch it, because I know it's something outside of the WWE, and for the most part, it's going to be enjoyable, you know. But I'm pumped. I am pumped. I think that this may be it. I think we may finally get that moment. One trepidation that Steve Austin had is Brock Lesnar willing to put up all the momentum that he's been building the past couple of years since he's been back in the WWE in a match against Steve Austin. And I think I kind of see what Steve Austin was really saying with regards to that. Basically, I think the question that he was putting out there is Brock Lesnar willing to do the deed, seeing as to how that would basically be a send off for Steve Austin. Now, remember, last time we saw Steve Austin in the ring at a WrestleMania, he lost. So, that last burning image, do you really want it to be, once again, he loses second straight WrestleMania in a row, even though there's been the gap all those years? I think for a lot of hardcore Steve Austin fans, it's like, no, if he's going to come out of retirement and he's going to wrestle Brock Lesnar on the biggest stages of them all, and it's going to be in his freaking backyard, then hell yeah. Talk about bittersweet. Have him go off with the right send off. You know, only makes a lot of sense. I hope that it happens. I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm not holding my breath. And I would hope that a lot of people, you know, don't hold their breath as well. I mean, let's just see what happens. But at least it's nice to know that there is some type of dialogue that's happening. A lot of good road stories that was told. There was a hilarious one involving the Steiner brothers and Sting, and a little stunt that they did on the Samoan SWAT team and all that. Overall, this was a really enjoyable conversation. And once again, I would highly encourage you guys that did not check it out yet to check it out. And again, the way it's looking right now, you can only check it out on the WWE Network. And if you do live in North America, you can see it in North America for free if you have not signed up for the network ever. This month of June is free. Somebody asked me, what did I think about that? I think it's a smart move. I think WWE realizes that they're on to something every single month, offering the network for free. If you can get X amount of people that sign up for free to convert over to paying customers, the odds are pretty high. I mean, just an analogy, but real quickly, let's say you were to take 100 people, North America, they sign up for the network. Trial is about to be over. I mean, honestly, if you can get like anywhere between 30 to 50 people to sign up for the network, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. I look forward to the next podcast. I'm not sure exactly who Steve Austin is going to be having. There was no release date for the next Stone Cold special. But you know the people that he's going to be talking to. One of them is The Undertaker. I can't wait for that one. That should be good. I forgot the other names, and at this point, I don't want to be reminded. I'd rather just be surprised. But just seeing where things kind of went with this one and everything. Um, like I said last night, I would love it if Steve Austin would talk to Dean Ambrose. I think that would be very interesting, especially with the whole comparisons that's now happening as WWE is trying to shape him up to be like the new Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that is. I'd like to see how those two would mingle. I think that would be a very exotic conversation, if you will. I'm also looking at, trying to think. I know a lot of people are like, what about Stephanie McMahon? How about a real interview? Lee, how about Steve Austin interviews Stephanie? Nah. I don't think it's needed. I really don't. I personally, for selfish reasons, I would love to see Steve Austin sit down with the man they call Sting. I mean, just all the talk that those guys could be having about the good old days, their time in WCW and all that. I think that would be a very, very interesting conversation, especially if it goes in the direction of Steve Austin covering what was going on during that period when WCW had got bought out, and what was Sting's mentality at that point, because obviously there was interest from WWE in him coming on over, but he didn't do it. Now I know he may have talked about it candidly on the DVD that he did for TNA and all that, but not every single WWE fan is probably going to be running to go grab that. So I think it would be a really good refresher for the WWE universe, to the point that maybe Sting could add some new elements to it that he didn't reveal previously. You know what I'm saying? But for selfish reasons, I like to see him sit down with the icon Sting. I definitely would love to see Brock Lesnar. I keep saying this over and over again. You get Brock Lesnar on the WWE network, that would be freaking awesome. Give me Steve Austin. You know what? And WWE, because I know we got a couple of people out there that work in WWE. They check us out from time to time. Lord knows they grabbed one of our most popular videos on our YouTube channel, and they said, this video is so good, we're going to monetize it. You're not making any money off of this anymore because we're going to put our ads in it. Long story, but you guys probably know the video we're talking about if you've checked out like our most popular videos of like all time. It's funny too, but I know there's people in WWE that like check out our show from time to time and all that. I'm not going to put their names out there, but WWE, follow up Steve Austin with Paul Heyman, with Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar. I promise you, you do that. Whew, my God. Let's get to you guys' comments. I'm curious if we have a decent volume of comments from you guys. I see we got a decent audience at this time of night, as it's already 1 a.m. A very good morning to you guys. All right, let's see what we got right here. Andre, I don't see Austin versus Lesnar happening. I could see Stone Cold being involved as a special guest referee at WrestleMania involving Lesnar, but not as a wrestler. You know, to follow up on what Andre said, something else that I'd like for you guys to comment on, how have you all been enjoying seeing Steve Austin work with the WWE in some type of capacity? I know we have some people that wish he would participate in the special episodes of Raw, you know, for every 1,000 episodes or whatever, or old school editions, or maybe the comeback and hype up a pay-per-view event. I know that there's those of you out there that wish he would come back and do those types of things, but I'd like to know, I'm curious. So I got to put this question out there to you guys. How have you been enjoying him just exclusively doing stuff on the network? Are you just content? You're happy that you have that? You personally think it's a better move, or would you like to see more Steve Austin just in moderation? Give me you all's input and we'll follow up on our podcast. Wrestling fan, the creeper sounds like a gimmick that involves stalking little kids. Oh, that's a good one. Let's see what else we got right here. Wrestling fan will follow that up by saying Brock versus Stone Cold. Hell yeah. Don't just take my money, take my house. Brock versus Stone Cold Mania 32. And Papa Pump, I do hope you're a female. But if not, it's nice to know we have males that think I'm attractive as well. Papa Pump saying you're hot. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Ron, I was Geek Up. Geek Up. That's a new one. Let's try Geeked Up. I was geeked up hearing Austin and Heyman talk about WrestleMania 32. The way Austin was talking and acting at the end of the show, he was cutting a promo, and him and his Stone Cold Steve Austin character, awesome. Really hope that match happens. You, me both, man. I hope so too, man. Ramon, thank you for staying up late, man. Austin stated the interview asking the meat and potato questions and ended the interview with Austin on Stone Cold mode with a possible WrestleMania match that he has a long time to prepare for. I'll say, did you look at his guns? He's got veins. I don't know if you guys been peeping it, but if you like backtrack to the previous Stone Cold specials, I just noticed these little things. That's all. And it's not like, I mean, if you really think about it, you're looking at them for like, an hour or whatever. I mean, you look at me long enough. Hey Lee, what's going on with your sideburns? Hey Lee, what's going on with the beard, man? I mean, you notice the little, littlest things. Um, what was I saying? I like got a brain fart right there. Um, I got to backtrack. What were you saying? Interview Stone Cold. Yeah, his appearance. I've been noticing on the past few Stone Cold specials, his body's been getting a little bit more slimmer and he's been looking more defined. Now, I don't know if maybe he's just trying to prepare for movie roles or what, but I mean, he is just he's got plenty of time to get ready. One and be done. That's what I say. One and be done. I'll refresh one more time. And if there's no more comments, I think we'll go on ahead and we will call it a night. EA Prima, he thinks that an interview with Brock Lesnar would be excellent. I think that's the perfect way you follow it up. Remember, guys, I've been on to something with the past several Steve Austin predictions as far as who's he going to talk to next. This Paul Heyman thing, it threw me off. I think it threw a lot of people off because all we knew at the time was his show was coming back to the network. We didn't know who he was going to be interviewing until like a couple of weeks later or whatever. So there was really no way for me to make a prediction because it threw me off that his show went away, and then by the time it came back, they already announced who the guest was going to be. But if I were to give a bold prediction, we'll see if I can keep the streak going. Brock Lesnar, he's got to be the next guy. I mean, there's just that part of him that is just so mysterious. And I mean, it was nice to hear Paul Heyman give us a little bit of insight into Lesnar, especially the whole farming thing. That, I mean, that was just like, wow. Like at the end of the day, all the money that Lesnar has, like the only thing that matters to him is being able to take that money, invest in farms and lands because he grew up the son of a dairy farmer or whatever. So he is a good old hometown boy when it's all said and done. And can you blame the guy that lives out in the country at the end of the day? He doesn't want to deal with the bright lights, the big cities and all that. He just wants to be in his remote little area doing what he does best, farming and hunting animals and all of that. You can't blame the guy for that. That's going to do it. Keep the comments coming. I appreciate it. All right. So for our podcast coming up this Tuesday night of June 2nd, 2015, I will definitely go into great depths to talk about WWE Raw. I know a lot of you guys are curious what I have to say about that event. I'll definitely talk about that. In particular, we will have a segment aimed towards John Cena. Y'all are going to love that segment with John Cena. It's to follow up on what we saw of him tonight, cutting that promo to Kevin Owens. You're going to like the direction that I have to take that in. And you anti-John Cena fans, you definitely want to make sure you check it out. It's probably going to be one of the rare times I defend John Cena on so many levels, but not go overkill with it. It's going to be rather brief, but it's going to be on point. We'll also talk about this whole deal that went down with TNA Wrestling and Destination America. Last we were on the air, a lot of stuff has happened. Obviously, Ring of Honor has now come into the fold. They're now going to be on the same network with TNA Wrestling. I'll weigh in on that. If you watched Extra, we talked about Ring of Honor's side, how it's good for them. Check that out if you didn't watch it yet. Great series. But we're going to flip the script, take a look at TNA Wrestling. Bruce Jenner got the new photo spreads of him and this Vanity Fair magazine he's going to be appearing on. I'll weigh in on that. And there's a whole bunch of goodies we're going to be talking about on that show. I might even have a DVD review. So make sure you join us 10 p.m. Eastern, Spreaker.com. All the links you need is in the episode description. Hey, if you can't join us live, even more the reason why, you should check out the links down below and check us out on various platforms as We have episodes available on demand for your listening and downloading pleasure. Make sure, even though you can no longer see the likes and dislikes, remember, new feature we're going to be doing on our podcast. We'll let you know every single week how our live web streams go, because I know there's a lot of you guys that care about the numbers. You'll just want to know if we're doing okay or not. So join us, but give it a thumbs up. If you give it a thumbs down, I still sleep good at night. But I tell you what, man, I respect those that offer constructive criticism without insulting, because the only way we as a society can improve is by getting feedback, constructive feedback at that. So always good to try to encourage that. All right, guys, that is going to do it. Please be safe, be kind to one another. Very good night, good morning. Take care.